Hello everyone, and welcome to 4Panel, your weekly guide to the weird and wild world of comics. I'm Andrew, and as per usual, I'm joined by my co-host Rob.
Hello!
And Mick.
Hello!
So, how are we all doing this week?
Not too bad, not too bad. How are you?
I'm good. I've spent most of my week rewatching the old Justice League cartoon, and so that's why we're doing the Justice League episode. Now it's like it was a productive thing.
Rather than just you wasting precious time.
Well...
I mean, is anything wasting time when we're all just distracting ourselves from the inevitability of the grave?
Yeah. I suppose we could consider this episode a follow-on from the episode we did on the future of the Justice League.
By having a delve into its murky past, you mean?
Well, isn't that how you decide the future of anything?
Yes, I agree, because I did that episode and very much remember everything that was talked about on it.
Well, we did mention some of the people we'd like to see come into the Justice League and the DC movie universe, whatever it's called this week.
I mean, look, I barely remember last week's show.
Haven't they officially renamed the DCEU as a loose collection of films that may or may not feature some of your favourite superheroes and their villains, but in a way that you haven't quite recognised? Maybe.
Well...
Universe.
I suppose that would be true.
What's the acronym for that one, Mick?
I think you pronounce it...
Oh, I'd love to be in the board meeting when they discuss that.
It would be... Well, it'd start off as Elkoff. And then after that, I forgot the order of the words I used.
Sorry, Elkoff just sounds like a Mexican drug lord.
Oh, it sounds like a Mexican version of Vino's.
Yes.
See, don't worry, everyone. You might have been scared last week, but the shambling mess of 4Panel that you know and love is back.
Oh, okay, so we're talking about weird members of the Justice League.
We are indeed, so I can kick things off, because the kind of very vague link I had to, actual news what has happened is Wonder Woman 1984, the film that I maybe slightly forgot was coming out. They've announced that Pedro Pascal will be playing Maxwell Lord.
Yeah, he was a bit of an odd choice of a villain back in the... because it was in the 80s when he came out, wasn't it?
It was. And even, calling him a villain is kind of a bit wibbly-wobbly.
Yeah, I mean...
Well, my only experience of Maxwell Lord was in Supergirl.
Yeah.
And he wasn't so much a villain as just a mildly annoying knob.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a very good summary of 1980s Maxwell Lord.
He was basically the Donald Trump of superhero comic books, or of the DC comic books anyway.
Certainly the way he was portrayed in season 1 of Supergirl, he was like DC's answer to Tony Stark.
Yeah.
So to get into him in the comics, he was created by Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis during the what's mostly known as the Justice League International version of the team. So it was basically the Justice League, but without a lot of the bigger members. So there's no Superman, no Wonder Woman, no Green Lantern. Well, no good Green Lantern. They did have Guy Gardner, the second worst Green Lantern.
See,
the worst is Hal Jordan.
See, this is the thing. I actually don't mind Guy Gardner as a character. I hated him as a Green Lantern, and I hated him as Warrior. But when he was a Yellow Lantern, and he had his own comic book, that was when he was actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, I guess. The thing with Guy Gardner is the Green Lantern who is the worst, you scallywag.
Yeah.
As in, is deliberately a terrible character. Hal Jordan just sucks.
Exactly. And this is the thing. At least Guy Gardner had the balls to quit the Green Lantern and then went and stole Sinestro's ring.
But anyway, Maxwell Lord. So this version of the Justice League, it focused more on them as an actual organization So it was a lot of them kind of having to deal with the UN and stuff.
Yeah.
And as part of that, they ended up being kind of semi-ran by this businessman named Maxwell Lord.
It was the 1980s, so he was kind of the epitome of the capitalist ideology of the 80s, wasn't he? Everything was the Justice League brand, and it was all about how to maximize profits and how to, well, you know what I mean.
So basically the boys, then.
Yeah, kind of a lighter version of that, because it was very much, he starts off as this amoral businessman who's only in it for his own good, but through association with the League kind of becomes gradually more heroic as the series goes on. Except initially he was a villain.
Yep.
Because now we're on some of that good DC stuff that I know we all like. Maxwell Lord's reason for originally buying the Justice League has had two different retcons. So, first of all, it was an evil computer that I think was built by Darkseid, which mind controlled him into wanting to take over the world. Then it was a computer built by a different villain, a robot named Kill Percentage Gore.
Oh, Kilgore. I forgot about that.
No, Kill Percentage Gore. Can't forget the percentage.
No, get it right. Kilg percent re.
You're right. I am ashamed of my words and deeds.
Hey, Rob, does this mean I get to fire Andrew?
I don't think so.
Unfortunately, Mick now has to run the rest of the episode. And obviously, since my notes are so heavily flawed, you can't use those. But I mean, as the foremost authority on DC Comics, that won't be a problem for you, will it, Mick? You've got a degree now and everything.
Oh, God.
No, I haven't. I haven't got a degree. I've just got a certificate. That's all I've got. I think it says 25 metres.
This is called
breaststroke.
Yeah, this is called backing yourself into a corner, Mick.
I'll tell you what, Andrew. We'll put you on unpaid suspension next week.
Oh,
that seems incredibly fair.
Anyway, we were talking about Maxwell Lord and Kilg
percent re.
Yep. So it turns out we'll call him Kilgore.
It's just easier.
And then there was the second retcon. So basically, to explain Maxwell Lord, he's one of those characters who's very specifically only really works with this version of the team. So once that was disbanded, kind of seemed like a lot of writers didn't really know what to do with him. It's he got weird stuff where he was possessed by a dream demon or turned into a cyborg.
Oh, hang on. Didn't Maxwell Lord get control of the Eclipso powers at one point?
Maybe. Lots of things happened to Maxwell Lord, and it was kind of hard to remember everything that happened.
Yeah, he was the biggest threat to Earth's DC heroes because he was basically Eclipso reborn, or something like that.
Was that someone else? Anyway, the main thing that happened to Maxwell Lord was kind of in the mid-2000s. It is to flat out make him a villain. But then also retconned it that he was always a villain. So basically what happened was a robot man built a computer that was pretending to be a different computer to mind control a man into wanting to take over the world who already wanted to take over the world.
Okay.
And then he shot the Blue Beetle.
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause this was around Infinite Crisis times when DC really started to lean into we've got to be dark, serious, big boy comics now.
Yeah.
And that's just the kind of thing I really don't like.
Can I nominate a weird one? A weird member of the Justice League? Or actually, two weird members of the Justice League, I suppose.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on. Just for the record, because I was hoping this would be like Justice League 101, right? Can I just ascertain my understanding of what the Justice League actually is. All right?
Yes, but bear in mind, depending on which era of the Justice League we're talking about, you may or may not be fabulously incorrect.
Okay, I'm going to go with just your bog standard Justice League. All right?
Batman.
Core
Superman.
members, Aquaman, Batman, Cyborg, Flash, Green Lantern, Superman, Wonder Woman, with additional appearances at various points from Martian Manhunter, Green Arrow, Hawkeye, no, not Hawkeye, Hawkman, Hawk Girl, and then occasional appearances from the under-23 squad of Starfire, Nightwing, and Robin, and other various members of the Bat family when needed.
Yeah. As I think Martian Manhunter is a core member. Cyborg isn't.
So basically, what? In fun DC Comics tradition, you're both right and wrong.
Because Cyborg was a core member of the Teen Titans, while the Justice League was active with the core members, but his place was taken by Martian Manhunter.
So, basically, in the current DC... Well, not even the current... Currently, DC Comics continuity is a bit of a who knows what's its... But basically, original version of the Justice League, formed in the 1960s. That was Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash, Aquaman, and Martian Manhunter.
Yep.
But then in 2000 and... Was it 2012, the New 52?
11.
2011, was it? So yeah, 2011, DC rebooted their whole continuity, and so made it, instead of Martian Manhunter, Cyborg was the founding member of the Justice League.
Which made no sense to me. They basically got rid of, 20 years of comic books all about the Teen Titans and a very successful cartoon series and a video game.
That's what happens when you read them.
Yeah, but if you look at the original lineup of the Justice League...
Yeah, I know.
Boy, sure, a bunch of white folks.
I'm one green guy.
And so it's maybe a bit better that we diversify that up a bit.
Yeah.
But also, one of those white guys was Hal Jordan.
Yeah, and Hal Jordan, as we've established, is the worst. Anyway, can I put forward my...
And another one of those white guys is Barry Allen.
Yeah.
Who's only slightly not the worst.
Yeah. Can I put forward my two? Just basically because their powers, even though their powers were...
Oh, Rob, no. Rob, no.
They have to be. It has to be. You know how I'm going to say. Their powers were interesting, but I didn't understand... In an actual fight, how could you use the shape of or the form of whatever in an actual fight against, say, Brainiac or Maxwell Lord or, I don't know, even Joker?
I mean, you're talking about the Wonder Twins, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
The what now?
They are official members.
The Wonder Twins?
Yep, they are official members of the Justice League.
Is that like Wonder Woman and her twin sister?
Nope, it's Zan and Jaina of Exor.
Yep.
What, the oil corporation?
No, that's Exxon.
Oh, no, that's Exxon.
Basically, when Zan and Jaina, when they, pardon the phrasing, but when they touch each other and say shape of or form of, they
touch each other in the special way.
Yeah, in the special way. They can say Wonder Twins powers activate, and they can say shape of or form of, and they can pick whatever form they want. Their powers are water-based, if I remember correctly.
Well, it's somewhat imbalanced.
Yeah.
Because Jaina can transform into any animal. That's cool. That's useful. That's what Beast Boy did. Well, technically, he said, pushing his glasses up, Vixen just takes the trait of any animal she wants.
Sure.
Vixen is basically, you remember Phantom from, was it Defenders of the Earth?
No, literally no one remembers Phantom. Anyway, Jaina, she's an animal. She's cool.
Oh, that explains the Wonder Twins. They started off as a Hanna-Barbera invention.
Look, do you want to know about Zan's fantastical powers or not? So when he joins hands with his sister, he can transform into get absolutely any type of water.
Absolutely any type.
Yeah, from ice to steam to water itself.
Which, I mean, the ability to control water, handy, useful. Ability to turn into water.
And now you see why they were my pick for one of the weirder choices to admit into the Justice League.
Just think how many of those ingeniously encrypted locks on doors are on doors that aren't actually watertight.
Yeah, but that requires you to be wanting access to that with a degree of stealth. So, shouting, Wonder Twins powers, activate, form of steam, at the top of your voice, and then trying to sneak through the door probably isn't a good idea.
I mean, to be fair to him, he can actually do like some controlling water stuff. We're having fun as we like to do on the show.
Yes.
But I do love the idea of a superhero who just like screams, Wonder powers activate, and then just splashes onto the floor.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, even the Wonder Twins, the Wonder Twins and Maxwell Lord still aren't the weirdest members of the Justice League.
Well, no, I've got a bit of a list here, and one of them confuses me because, as you know, I do follow the Arrowverse on the television, and
actually, you know what? This is probably a decent way to do it. It's just we all go around in a circle, saying ones.
Yeah. So I've just come across one on a list. Now, the plot line in Arrow that I'm currently following is the lead up to the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. And so the Monitor is playing a bit of a role. But I've just noticed that there's a character here called the Anti-Monitor, who I can only assume completely ignores the events of the universe and takes no part in changing them whatsoever.
See, you'd think that'd be the case. You would think that'd be the case, really.
Yeah.
You know, he sounds like a character that if the Justice League turned around and say, Anti-Monitor, there's nothing to see here, everything's under control, he'd just go, okay.
And can you imagine if you had like an anti-Brainiac? He'd go around just, fixing planets and putting cities back.
Yeah. Unbottling cities.
Exactly.
Basically, what you're positioning is Bizarro Monitor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, to be honest, I'm not exactly sure of the circumstances as to why the Anti-Monitor's on the Justice League now. Because I think that is something that is happening, like, literally the most recent series that's coming out.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, he's not part of the Justice League, is he?
Yep.
Is he?
As of Justice League Volume 4, number 32.
Okay.
Or thereabouts.
But yeah, no, the Anti-Monitor, he is a weird bad guy who wants to destroy all of reality. And did. But then it got better.
And now he's part of the Justice League.
See, people say Crisis on Infinite Earths is confusing. There you go. I summarised it.
Oh.
Anyway. So. Oh, you know what? I did kind of want to do a special mention thing.
Yeah.
Because someone who I had on this list, but I'm kind of wanting to take off now?
What?
Blue Devil. Who, Mick, you'll be familiar with.
Oh, yeah.
So, Blue Devil, who is on the Swamp Thing TV series, was on the Swamp Thing TV series. He is a man named Daniel Cassidy, who basically... So, at the moment, he's kind of like the TV version, where he's just a guy that got turned into a big blue demon. But originally, he was an actor who got magically trapped inside his special effects suit, which also had a super strong exoskeleton. Because apparently, it's a common thing in comic universes. Whatever your job is, there's no way you can do it without massive overkill and potential doomsday weapons.
Lots of them.
But Which other thing I discovered while I was doing some digging on Blue Devil? I actually quite like him. Like, his original series from 1984. It's actually a lot of fun.
I must admit, I did find that plot line quite intriguing within the Swamp Thing series.
Yeah. And also, what I like about the original series is it's almost quite Deadpool-esque in the idea that Blue Devil, I think the series, because his origins are like a mixture of magic and science, he now acts as a weirdness magnet, drawing like all sorts of weird phenomena from around the multiverse. So like one issue I read, he's watching a cartoon called Godfrey Goose, which is like obviously this really obvious Daffy Duck parallel, when just the cartoon comes to life and like starts basically trying to take over New York City.
So it was the Macy's Day Parade all over again.
Basically. Yeah, it's one of those. You know, Blue Devil has the Aquaman problem, I think. Where it's like, he is one of those characters who within his own series is like quite interesting. But as soon as you take him out and like put him on the Justice League, then he's just a big guy who can like hit things pretty good. It's kind of, it's a lot of the world he's in is what makes him interesting. Anyway, let's talk about Bloodwind.
Oh, please, let's not talk about Bloodwind.
Bloodwind?
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a particularly nasty post-Curry incident.
Yeah, and it was kind of that in the comics as well.
I mean, here's the thing. Bloodwind, my notes, first bullet point is just the worst. I lied. Hal Jordan isn't the worst. It's Bloodwind. Bloodwind is the worst.
The thing, Bloodwind, see, right, I think I'm going to have to go through the sequence of events, right?
Yeah. So this is, to set the stage, it's 1992. Dan Jurgens is doing his thing, working his magic.
Yep.
He's on the Justice League.
Yeah, and then things happen and Martian Manhunter disappears.
Where could he have gone?
We don't know. But all of a sudden, somebody appears to take his place. He's called Bloodwind, and he goes through the usual tests, passes them with flying colours. He's a full member of the Justice League now. But, oh no, spin on. Oh, crisis is happening again. This time it's a very personal crisis because, oh, in the comics, there's a giant fist coming through a wall because unstoppable, implacable, doomsday is coming. Oh no! And then Superman goes, eh. And Bloodwind, during the fight, gets hammered before Blue Beetle finds out who he actually is.
I wonder who he could be.
Oh.
It's the Martian Manhunter. But don't worry, in case you thought this was one of those cop-out ones. See, Martian Manhunter, right? He was possessed by a demon in a magic gem called Rot. And inside the gem is the actual Bloodwind, who was trapped there and being forced to make Martian Manhunter pretend to be Bloodwind.
Yep.
For reasons which I'm sure were very important.
But made no sense whatsoever. I know, because I read the comics.
But whatever, don't even sweat it. Bloodwind, he's free. He's here. He's on the Justice League. He's gonna use all of his silly 90s name and his vague death-based magic powers, because again, it's the 90s, to help the League fight all their enemies, like Dreamslayer. He's gonna stand on the side and refuse to participate.
See, this is the weird thing. Comics during the 90s, DC or Marvel, they had this weird obsession with just, I don't know, with just blood in a name. Because you had, on Marvel's side, Thunderstrike fighting Blood Axe. And then on DC's side, you had Bloodwind. It's like two really bad heavy metal bands in a Battle of the Bands type thing, wasn't it?
But the blood is so you know how serious he is.
Exactly. Can we move from the worst to one of the weird, strangest, but also one of the best?
Just before we do move on, can I just point out that Bloodwind is such a bad idea it doesn't even have its own Wikipedia entry?
Are you spelling it with a Y or an I?
Oh, yeah, no, sorry, Mick. I think what you're doing is you're typing Bloodwind. Bloodwind, right?
Yeah, it's
That's
so
right, yeah.
it's so metal. Yeah, it's so metal. It's got a Y.
Right.
Yeah, it's BLOODWYND.
Oh, not that bad then.
But seriously, one of the best, one of the strangest, but also one of the best, Detective Chimp.
Heck yeah, Detective Chimp. Bobo T. Chimpanzee.
Yeah, he's
You
amazing.
do realise I Google all of these to make sure you're not just winding me up.
I'm not. Detective Chimp is great.
And, hold on, is that detective with an I or a Y?
It's an I.
And is that chimp with an I or a Y?
With an I. See, Detective Chimp, he starts off as like a really intelligent, trained chimpanzee who's basically like a helping mascot type thing. And then he becomes like really smart, becomes a member of Mensa, a chain smoker, and
Goes to work for the Umbrella Academy?
Yeah, so basically, Detective Chimp, he was introduced in The Adventures of Rex the Wonder Dog, issue 4, created by John Broome and Carmine Infantino. And so to start off with, he, like Rob says, he was just a smart chimpanzee who kind of helped out. I think it was more about just like a sheriff who would solve crimes. And also had like a fun chimpanzee mascot. But then it got retconned in I think in the 90s, or like the late 80s.
it was the Shadow Pact thing, wasn't it? It was something to do with the Spectre.
Well, no, because the main thing I know Detective Chimp from was he showed up in an issue of The Flash. And I think it was a little bit before then. Anyway, basically his origin got changed so that him and Rex the Wonder Dog both drank from the Fountain of Youth and like gained super intelligence.
I think that was early 80s, wasn't it? Was it early 80s or late 80s? I can't remember.
Might even have been early 80s. But I think the important thing is he showed up in an issue of The Flash, leading like the Bureau of Amplified Animals.
Oh, no, it was late 80s, 90s.
Anyway, he helped the Flash stop Gorilla Grodd. It was a good story. It's called Guerrilla Warfare.
But yeah, then didn't he get like retconned again, or was it just the once?
I believe it was just the once. I think he's popped up in other places and sort of pushed more towards the sort of magic side of things.
Ah, that explains the stuff I read.
Because he's got that connection to the Fountain of Youth.
Ah, that explains the stuff that because I didn't read a lot of it. There was some stuff related to him and Spectre. Apparently Spectre had gone mad and was killing like wizards and stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of Day of Vengeance, which was this big sort of magic crossover thing.
Ah, right, okay. I shall bow to your knowledge on this.
Anyway, Mick, do you want to give us one last one?
One last one. Let me think. I'm going to go with Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo. Who the hell is Jarrow?
It's a town near Newcastle.
It's also a member of the Justice League.
I think I find it's pronounced Jar-O.
Ah, right. Yeah, that makes sense, because that makes his real name Starro.
Yeah. Starro as in giant starfish, one-eyed alien that fights the Justice League in their first adventure.
Hang on, how is he a member of the Justice League now?
Well, I think Jarrow is like a sort of one of his offshoots.
Ah. Who becomes a member of the Justice League?
Yep. And dresses up as Robin.
Along with the World Forger, the Overmonitor, and Starman. Nice that David Bowie's found work.
And the World Forge of the Overmonitor. What?
The World Forger and the Overmonitor. Both members of the Justice League.
The World Forger and the Overmonitor. Okay, so is the Overmonitor like the granddad of the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor?
I don't know. I'm not going to start reading Justice League till Hall Monitor and Milk Monitor join.
No, all I'm asking is like Overmonitor, like the...
You know, there was a DC crossover called The Milk Wars, in which one of the characters in that, I'm pretty sure, was a superpowered milkman.
We're not getting into that. The Over-Monitor, is he the dad of the Monitor? And then is the Anti-Monitor married to the Monitor? And is he actually the Uncle Monitor then?
No.
Is this like a Monitor family?
The Over-Monitor is the Monitor.
What? There's some weird hillbilly thing going on here in the Monitor family.
So, let me just...
Does he have a cousin called Cletus Monitor?
The whole subject of monitors, brackets, comics, has got a section, not a page, a section on Wikipedia. But yes, apparently the Over-Monitor is a new name for the Monitor, or Mar-Novu, and is a member of the Justice League, along with the Anti-Monitor and the World Forger.
Does he like?
Now, is that a man who makes worlds, or is that a man who copies worlds to sell at a knockdown price?
I was about to say, does he just make like really cheap knockoffs of different worlds?
What, just some like Galactus-sized guy with a massive trench coat? Hey, want some planets?
Oh God, can you imagine?
It's Galactus' feeder partner.
No, Galactus has a world habit, and he's the dealer.
Yeah, Marvel vs. DC 2 is going in some weird directions.
The first solar system's free just to get you hooked.
I mean, I think when we get to Galactus feeder porn, we're legally obliged to just stop the show and go for a break.
I think we're there now. You've said it, so we're actually there.
Yes, that's what I meant. It's where we've arrived.
Oh.
Well, I may be hungry, but there's always time for the Geek Show.
Have you ever been reading through a stack of comics and thought, maybe I should see what this Arkham Asylum game is all about? Or been playing Marvel vs. Capcom and felt like you were at a real disadvantage since you didn't know who half the characters were? Well, Play Comics is the show for you. I'm Chris, and each episode we take a look at video games based on comic properties and how well they stick to that source material. So whether you know the comics and want to know how all these games work, or you know the games and want to find out where all this craziness came from, go check out Play Comics at playcomics.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Welcome back, and now it's time for our usual look at the things we've been reading. So, Mick, take it away.
Okay. I've been reading a Dark Horse movie tie-in, Aliens Resistance, and it's by Brian Wood and Robert Carey. And when I tell you what Brian Wood has worked on, things like The Massive and Briggsland, that's going to excite one or two people, I would have thought.
Yeah. Oh, and also don't forget his lifelong project of being a serial harasser and all-around terrible dude.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I didn't mind Briggsland. It was kind of interesting, but The Massive was, yeah.
And Robert Carey, who's drawn Power Rangers and The Phantom. And this is more of a game tie-in than a film tie-in, to be fair. It's a follow-on from Alien Isolation.
Okay.
And it kind of okay. It follows the tried and tested format of some humans drifting in space. They find a Weyland-Yutani complex. It's got some humans on it. They do some snooping around. They discover that the corporation are up to no good. They find that there's a trap. They end up on a planet. Guess what's living there?
Is it a predator? Is it Terminator?
No.
Is it an alien?
It is. And then they also find that there's been some experimentation done on the colonists, and they're also part alien. And then they have some big fights, some exciting exploding scenes, and the end. What it's not clear about is what the hell they're supposed to be resisting against, other than maybe, smash the system, smash the evil corporation. There's so little characterization.
Maybe that's what they're resisting.
Resisting having some kind of character.
Yeah.
it's one of those, it feels like, let's do an Aliens comic for the sake of doing an Aliens comic, rather than, here's a story that needs to be told.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever played the Alien Isolation game?
Yes.
Okay. What did you think of it?
I quite enjoyed it. It felt like I was in an Alien film.
Yeah. But
This
what did
doesn't
you
feel
think?
like an Alien comic.
I was about to say, what did you think of the characters in the Alien Isolation game?
Well, I'll be honest, I haven't got that far with it, mainly because I kept dying a lot. Because I couldn't get the hang of the hiding mechanic. But also, I crapped myself every time an alien turned up. But
Well, there you go. That's the problem. It's not that you're not hiding; it's they can just trace the smell.
yeah, absolutely. But I mean, the thing is, at least with Alien Isolation, it's doing something a little bit different. The characters are there,
Yeah.
and it's doing something a little bit different in a universe that we know.
Yeah.
And it was kind of helped because you had some little bits of narration that were done by Sigourney Weaver and stuff like that, some of the DLC.
Yeah.
But this, I think, it could be any sci-fi story. And the story itself is, if it wasn't set in the Alien universe, it wouldn't be a bad story. But the fact that it's in the Alien universe just makes it another, oh, look, we found some aliens, they're attacking us.
Yeah. And that's kind of the point I wanted to make. You've just said it right there. It's a generic story that hasn't really been fleshed out. Doesn't really know what it wants to do.
No, it's almost like right, Brian. You know that 5-comic deal that you signed? It's time to give us a 5th comic. You can work in the Aliens universe if you want.
But I wanted to do Predator this time.
No, Aliens. You do Aliens. You can tell a Predator story, but do it in the Aliens universe.
Sorry, you know when you were saying that, you're clearly saying it just as you, Mick, but for some reason in my head, it developed a kind of Arabic, kind of Indian twang.
Oh,
I don't know why.
okay.
I don't know why. Anyway, so not worth it then.
I mean, it's one of those for the completist, I would say.
Okay, Andrew.
Yeah. Well, if we're talking spooky aliens, I may as well talk about Venom Unleashed Volume Uno, which is mostly written by Donny Cates, with Venom Unleashed written by Ryan Stegman and Funeral Pyre written by Cullen Bunn, and art by a bunch of people: Juan Ramirez, Felipe Sobrerio, Danilo S. Beyruth, Chris Peter, Kyle Hotz and Juan Gedeon. So many inkers and colours. Joshua Cassara and Alberto Albuquerque. And J. David Ramos on some of the other colours. So this is a sort of collection of side stories from the most recent Venom run, which I think, Rob, you covered the first volume of, didn't you?
Yes.
So I think part of the gist of that was it turns out Eddie Brock was not the first symbiote on Earth, and there had actually been a whole bunch throughout history, which handily takes us to our first story, Venom. It's about Venoms in the Vietnam War.
See what they've done there.
Which, and I mean, I thought I was already sold just based on the terrible pun alone, but it also involves...
Why wouldn't you be?
Exactly. But no, the story itself is actually real good. It's about Nick Fury and Wolverine, who have to go hunting for a special group of soldiers, because it turns out S.H.I.E.L.D. had a secret program where, like, they give a bunch of soldiers symbiote suits and just send them in as, like, an infiltration team. And it's... I mean, basically, it's kind of the same as your story, Mick, only, like, better. Because it's got this fun tense, you know, like, we're hunting these things in the jungle, but they could be literally anything. Like, that guy could be a Venom, that guy could be a Venom, that tree could be a Venom, that Venom could be a Venom, oh god, it is a Venom, he's eating me arm.
The jungle has a lot of shadows. Each shadow could be a Venom. My God,
Yeah.
Venom can take over anything in the jungle, and the jungle is literally full of creepy crawlies and snakes and lizards and birds and jaguars and tigers and
Exactly. Like, I try not to too often do the whole it's like X meets X thing, but this really is kind of like the Predator meets the thing, and it's such a neat concept. Anyway, I also like that one because it's the most sort of self-contained one. Like, you can read that without really knowing anything about the Venom series, whereas the rest seem to tie more into this. I think it's called like Carnage Unleashed, the kind of big crossover storyline that's going on now for Venom. So you get a fun little one where it's about like Carnage and his origin story, but it emphasizes the fact that Carnage, he keeps dying and coming back, and like how there's now this whole weird like death cult built around him. Yeah, that's fun. I really like Carnage as like a really like horror themed protagonist.
he works really well as a horror themed protagonist. And you know, when I was covering the War of the Realms stuff, and I had that single issue about the Cult of Carnage, that really sparked my interest as well in just that whole Cult of Carnage thing.
Nice. But yeah, and then the other two, they just seem to be more from the perspective of, oh, Carnage, he's going around, he's trying to like kill and absorb all the other symbiotes. So you get one story about Venom, who's a dog now apparently, but also doesn't seem to need to be bonded to Eddie Brock anymore. Which I feel like that was one of those ones where I maybe needed to be reading the series. And then...
Yeah, you need to read the series to understand what's gone on there.
Okay, and then another one. This is the Cullen Bunn one about Mania, who is like a minor character from his Venom run. So it was nice seeing her again. She's lost her symbiote, and now all she has is the ability to summon demons from hell.
Only that. You know, when I was a kid, right? Like any kid, I'd try to get my mum to buy me a toy or buy me some sweets, and I'd say, "It's only this much, Mum." It's kind of like that, isn't it? She's only got the powers to summon demons from hell.
Oh yeah, I was very much there. Come on, it's only 50 quid for this action figure. I think my worst one was, but Mum, I need this figure because I'm sick and it will help me get better. I did not get the action figure.
I'm not surprised. Right.
Yeah, and the art's real good as well. From like all 5,000 of the people involved.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. I've got Volume 1 of Isabelle, which is written by Raul, and with art by Gabor. Now, I don't know if those are the real names. I'm assuming that they are pen names. But that is what is written on this. And this is published by Dark Horse. And, well, Mick, you read Wayward, don't you?
I do.
Okay. Now, Wayward is about a young girl in Japan who is of Irish descent. And it's all about magic and stuff like that. And it's got various gods and demons and creatures from folktale and legend and stuff like that in, doesn't it?
Yep.
Okay. Now imagine the girl, the lead character from Wayward, had a twin sister, and the story was set in feudal Japan and involved a lot more samurais, a lot more heads cut off, and a lot more blood. Oh, so much more blood.
You see, I think it'd lose something with that level of violence.
See, it doesn't. That's the glorious thing. This is a very different story to Wayward, okay? It does have parallels with Wayward in that it does involve the relationship between Ireland and Japan. Isabella is the daughter of one of Japan's greatest samurai and an Irish witch. And she has a sister called Suiko who hates her. The two of them are twins, and Isabella is haunted by the ghost of her father who died at a battle several years previously, while Suiko has gone missing, and Isabella is trying to find her sister. And so she's on this journey across Japan. Now, according to a deal that her parents made, Isabella was trained as a samurai, as a warrior, as one of the best warriors in Japan, while his sister was trained in all of the magic arts of her mother. And so the two of them were separated, and there was a rule that the two of them could never meet. So from the day they were born, the two of them were separated. The twins were separated, and they were never allowed to meet. And so there's this backstory, this byplay that plays out throughout the story between. It's told in flashbacks about the history between Isabella and her sister. But this is primarily the story of Isabella coming to terms with the fact that she's become something that she doesn't understand, and she is trying to find her sister, basically to find a place where she belongs. And she thinks it's with her sister, but she's fooling herself in a lot of ways, because there's a part of her that's trying to find a place to die, various things like that. It goes into a lot of the actual... it doesn't go into the actual psychology, but it does kind of skim the surface of it. You have an interesting idea of an angel, in that it appears to be an African-American man with wings. So that's interesting to see. The artwork is really good. The story was interesting to me because I'd read Wayward, and because I'm familiar with manga, and I've read a lot of sword and sorcery samurai stories like Blade the Immortal and stuff like that. And so it was interesting on that level, but it also had some really interesting characters that join Isabella on her journey. And there's her dad, for a start, who is basically a ghost, and all he does is criticize and complain and try and get her to settle down and forget everything. There's a failed disciple of a monk, of a Buddhist monk, who is still just a kid. There's an archer who has fallen in love with Isabella, but knows that she doesn't love him in return, but still follows her. And there's a Chinese assassin, or Chinese warrior assassin, who wants the glory of China, but has decided to fight alongside Isabella and the rest of them. There's zombies in this, there's magic in this, there's people dying left, right, and centre. It's great.
Everything a growing boy needs.
I mean, that whole thing, sex, violence, and rock and roll. This kind of embodies it.
That's just a Friday night for me.
Yeah, well, this would be a good Friday night for it.
Speaking of people's nights,
Yeah.
Mick, on the nights when you aren't engaging in sickening ultra-violence, what comics do you read?
Well, recently I've been reading The Terminator, Sector War.
Oh, good. I'm glad it's not a good comic that, I used that very bad segue for.
This is by my old mate, Brian Wood.
Oh, he's been out and about.
Yeah. This time the art
That's
is
probably
by...
restraining orders, isn't it? Leaves him plenty of time to write books. Brian Wood's a bad man.
This is with art by Jeff Stokely. And this one isn't actually that bad. Dun, dun, dun.
The greatest plot twist of all.
I just don't see the point of it. So this tells the story of a Terminator sent back to New York to hunt down a police officer. And it turns out that this police officer is, similarly to Sarah Connor, the ancestor of someone who does something against Skynet in the future. So this is another one of those things. Lucy Castro is the police officer. There's a big chase, and it's a typical, if this was the plot of a Terminator movie, it wouldn't be one of the disappointing ones. It would be one of the, high octane, lots of action, lots of T-800 recovering from attacks and stuff. But the problem is, Lucy Castro's importance in the Terminator history, or future history, isn't sort of made prominent enough to understand or care why she's important to Judgment Day.
Yeah, because you don't really know what the stakes are.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the whole Terminator logic, any potential person could be the ancestor of someone who plays a part in the rebellion against the machines. Now, obviously, it was a useful plot twist in Terminator because it was Sarah Connor who was the mother of John Connor, who was the major antagonist against the machine.
Yeah. It's also, I guess, that pulls in the problem of if they can just time travel to, like, take out anyone who's a mild inconvenience, why aren't they doing it all the time?
Exactly.
Like, the film's made it seem like this is this is like a once or twice time deal, so we're going to use it to take out John Connor because, like, he is the most important figure in all of this entire rebellion.
Yeah. At some point, maybe we'll get a comic where, a T-1000 travels back to Illinois in 1984 to take out the great-great-grandfather of the man who forgot to take out the Cyberdyne Systems CEO's trash that time, because that really made him angry.
Dun 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 dun.
Dun 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 dun.
Time travel's just complicated business, isn't it?
So yeah, like I say, it's a perfectly terminal. It's a perfectly serviceable Terminator story. There's some good set pieces in it. It'd make a fantastic Terminator movie. It's just how important is Lucy Castro's thing. I think it mentions that her daughter grows up to go on a raid with John Connor. But, let's face it, if that girl isn't born, John Connor will just recruit someone else. It's completely futile.
See, that's one of the things that I've never understood about these comics that try to expand on these universes, but feel like they've never actually understood the universe in the first place. Like the video game spin-offs and the Alien one that you did earlier and this one. It feels like they've completely not understood what the Terminator movie or what the Aliens movies are about.
To be fair, though, with this one, if they did understand what it was all about, they'd just go, no, wait, RoboCop versus Terminator already exists. We don't need to bother.
Exactly.
Just send out a little piece of paper that says, go read that. That's my ideal Terminator comic.
Yeah. And I would love to see RoboCop versus Terminator as a movie. I think it'd be very interesting. Bring Peter Weller back for his in his seminal role as RoboCop.
Yeah. Maybe don't bring Frank Miller back, though.
No, not Frank Miller. But Peter Weller as RoboCop, as 1980s RoboCop specifically. Anyway, Andrew.
Yeah. Mischief Night really does sound like a whimsical precursor to The Purge.
The beauty of it was, Andrew, we still had steel dustbins back then.
Yes, we did.
Right. So what we used to like to do was tie the dustbin lids to doors and then knock on the door and run away. But because we lived in terraced houses, you quite often had two doors back to back. So we used to tie one door to the next door's bin. So not only did it make a massive racket, but they also had to untangle the bin lids as well.
See, that's a classic. I remember that from when I was a kid as well.
Even better, tie the two door handles together, knock on the door, and run away.
Yeah. And one of the ones...
We only had 3 TV channels.
Yeah, that was... I'm very appalled that you would ever do such a thing, and I'm definitely not giggling to myself. Anyway, I've been reading Guardians of the Galaxy, The Final Gauntlet, which is written by Donny Cates, art by Jeff Shaw, colours by Marte Garcia for issues 1 to 3, and David Curiel from issues 4 to 6, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. So, this takes place a bit after the Infinity Wars, which I covered a little while back, and Thanos, his only gone and blooming died. So, a collection of the most powerful and influential beings in all the galaxy have gathered to basically hear the last will and testament of Thanos, in which he reveals that while he may be dead, he's uploaded his consciousness into someone in the galaxy and will be coming back to take his revenge. And so a group of these people, led by Thanos' brother Star Fox, the ace fighter pilot. No, he's not. He's a weird, horrible sex pest who has to live in space because the Avengers fired him. He decides that, well, obviously, the person who Thanos' mind has been uploaded to must be Gamora, since she's the one who went all evil in Infinity Wars, and sets up a special task force to hunt her down and kill her. Except then, this collection gets attacked by the Black Order, here to steal Thanos' body, and sends a bunch of these people into a black hole, from which Beta Ray Bill, Moondragon, Phyla Vel, and the Cosmic Ghost Rider escape, and are picked up by Star-Lord and Groot, thus forming the new Guardians of the Galaxy, who are now, in a race across the galaxy to find Gamora before, the people who want to kill her can kill her, or the Black Order can get her and use her to bring Thanos back. And yeah, it's a fun little story. I like this team a lot. There's a great bit where basically Star-Lord and Groot... Oh, because by the way, Groot can talk now. They're like talking about, so I was like, how come we didn't get invited to this big meeting? And Groot says, oh yeah, we were. Just sounded lame. So he chucked the invitation in the trash. He's got some sass on him now.
Okay.
It's fun. It's a good series. It's got Beta Ray Bill in it, so that's an instant tick from me. I think the only thing that's left me a little bit cool on it, and to be fair, it's a problem that's all wrapped up by the end of this volume, is it's one of those, it's another Thanos story. So I feel, in general, I don't mind the fact that Marvel take a lot of inspiration from their movies now. Because, obviously they make $1 bajillion at the box office. Marvel would be silly not to try and get some of that. But the flip side of that I don't like is you kind of get these stories, they must contain certain elements, and it leads a lot of repetition. Like how any vaguely cosmic story Marvel, it's now got to revolve around Thanos. And I'm just sick of him. He's just Darkseid, but worse. And he thinks he's all that. But then how come he's dead? How come you're dead, Thanos?
That's the thing. Darkseid's not that great as it is. I mean, his whole deal is he wants the anti-life equations.
Yeah, I feel a lot of Darkseid, he works because he's just lurking in the background being vaguely menacing.
Except for the times when he decides to step forward and go, I'm going to have a big punch-up with Superman now, just to prove how tough Superman is by beating me.
Yeah. Which, again, that's the problem that Thanos has a lot more, is that he just gets beaten by everyone. There's only so many times you can set a villain up as, the ultimate threat, and then immediately just gets his teeth kicked in by all the heroes, before he just seems like a bit of a loser.
Oh.
And stuff like Nebula shows up and she's all, I'll help you kill Gamora. And it's one of those things. I've already seen this. The movies have already done this and done it better and wrapped up that whole character arc. And I don't necessarily want to see it again.
It's weird that you mentioned Nebula and Gamora, because that was one of the things in that Isabella one that reminded me of that whole the MCU relationship between Nebula and Gamora was the relationship between Isabella and her sister. The two of them are basically hunting each other, trying to kill each other, but also just want to be sisters and just need each other to give each other a big hug.
Aww. But yeah, anyway, that's a relatively minor grumble. I still like the underlying framework of this series, even if I'm not necessarily that big a fan of the driving plot. Also, much more importantly, so the Guardians need to track Gamora through the galaxy, right?
Yeah.
But they'll need help doing that. Luckily, Beta Ray Bill has a powerful and influential ally who can get them to where they need to go. A powerful and influential ally who's also a very good boy. It's Lockjaw.
Is it Lockjaw?
It is Lockjaw. So yeah, there's a big dog in it. 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Speaking of big dogs, there is also another place where you find big dogs, and that is in prison.
Oh my god, this isn't the end of the show. You still have a book left.
Yes, I do, which I will get through, because you gave me
I completely blanked on that.
you give me a good segue though. So, Captain America, Captain of Nothing, which is written by Ta-Nehisi Coates, and it's got art by Adam Kubert, colours by Frank Martin and Matt Miller, letters by VC's Joe Caramagna, and a cover by Alex Ross, which shows police arresting Captain America and confiscating his shield, which is actually a lie because his shield was never confiscated by the police in this comic. So the cover lied to me. Anyway, if people recall, at the end of the last issue, or the last chapter of this Captain America story, Thaddeus Ross had been assassinated by some kind of very sharp object, very sharp and round object, rather reminiscent of a shield of some sort, that was thrust into him with great force and purpose.
Counterpoint, though, Captain America's shield is only sometimes sharp.
Yes.
Sometimes it just wanks off of things.
Anyway, Captain America has been arrested, or rather, he is wanted for questioning, and so he is helping the police and S.H.I.E.L.D. with their inquiries into the death of Thaddeus Ross, which all eventually leads to him being arrested and being put in prison because no one trusts Captain America anymore because evil Captain America, or Hydra Captain America, Captain Hydra, we'll call him, just to separate.
Steve-L Rogers.
Yes, Steve-L Rogers.
Oh, dear.
He was in prison but has escaped, and now there are all sorts of things going on. So, Steve ends up in a prison. It's a prison for superpowered people. Is it the Raft? Possibly.
It might be the Raft.
It's possibly the Raft. But what we do know is one of the people in charge of the Raft, in fact, the person in charge of the Raft, is Baron Strucker.
Oh, so is it actually the Raft? Okay, I couldn't tell if, like, you were genuinely asking, or it was one of those kind of sarcastic-y ones. Because the Raft is the main one, but also there's been, like, a bunch of different ones.
Not the Raft. It's Black Site, which is in an undisclosed location. And Steve Rogers is there with a load of other prisoners who include that guy with the fiery pumpkin head, and
Jack-O-Lantern.
Jack-O-Lantern is in there, and people who look like snakes, and Jigsaw's in there as well. What he's doing there, I don't know.
Wait, Jigsaw, the man with the superpower of having a mashed up face.
He's in there as well.
That seems a bit harsh.
Yeah, so anyway, Sharon Carter has to get the location from Kingpin because Sharon Carter has a special status in S.H.I.E.L.D. She is special, in fact, super duper special, not only because she is Captain America's girlfriend, but also because she's a member of a super secret all-female group who are going to break Captain America out of prison because they know Captain America did not kill Thaddeus Ross. It was somebody else who killed Thaddeus Ross, and they're going to get him instead. But what they don't realize is they're up against somebody else who's also a part of this conspiracy. And while they're doing that, while the Daughters of Liberty are trying to gather the evidence to free Captain America, the Daughters of Liberty being Misty Knight and Captain Marvel and Spider-Woman and Sharon Carter and a few other people who I can't remember the names of. But anyway, they're all trying to gather evidence while Captain America is trying to, kind of instigate and also end a prison riot involving superpowered prisoners, which basically is where I'm going to leave that. I'm not sure what's going on with Captain America. It was nice and straightforward in the previous volume where he was basically trying to find his purpose and his place in the world, where he's trying to reevaluate the whole point of his life. He swore to uphold the values that the flag represented, but what happens if the flag no longer represents those values?
Also, language.
Why?
Because he swore.
Yes, he did. Language. But anyway, he made an oath, to uphold the values that the flag represented, but what happens when the flag no longer represents those values? He's reevaluating everything. And that was an interesting angle to go down. It would have been interesting to see Captain America go on this journey of development and actually develop as a character, develop as a person, develop as a hero, right? But instead of that, they basically went, oh no, someone died. Let's do murder mystery very, very badly. Which, unfortunately, has kind of put me off this. The art's not bad. It's pretty good all the way through. Some scratchy bits, some not so nice bits, but in general, it all works. It's just, it's just too easy to predict. And I know that anyone reading this is going to say, yeah, but it's Captain America. He could never have killed somebody. But why not? That's the whole point. Captain America was a soldier. He's already got blood on his hands. He fought in the Second World War. He killed people during the Second World War. He has no qualms about killing. He just chooses not to. He thinks there's a better way.
He's also a comic book hero, so I feel like he's probably not going to be a convicted murderer.
Yeah, and that's the point. Because he's a comic book hero, you know for a fact there's no way he's going to be a convicted murderer. There's going to be some way for him to get out of it. And that, you go into this knowing that, and it just fails. Do you see what I mean? It can't be a murder mystery if you already know the ending.
I guess it's also because the solution to it could be literally anything.
Yeah.
Like, you can just have it be an evil clone or a space alien.
Exactly. In this case, it was a Chinese assassin that you find out very quickly.
Oh. Well, that's disappointing.
Yeah. Captain of Nothing literally is nothing. I don't care about it. I liked the previous volume. I just don't like this one. I don't think anything of it.
Well, there you go. Speaking of disappointing, that's been 4Panel.
Yes. We are at the end of the show. So if you want to listen to any of our previous episodes or indeed any of the other shows that make up our network, then you can find them all on our website, thegeekshow.co.uk, or you'll find them on whichever podcast provider you choose to use, because we are available on all of them. So if you are listening to anything like that, leave us a rating, leave us a review. It does help us with exposure, and it does help us improve by giving us much valued feedback. Very valuable feedback, because the previous sentence I said made no sense whatsoever. Anyway.
You've never let that stop you before, though.
Yeah, I think that's unfair, narrowing in on that particular sentence.
Anyway, also on our website you'll find various reviews of video games and movies and various other things like that. So do check it out. Until next time then, I have been Rob.
I've been Andrew.
And I've been Mick.
We will see you all later.
Thanks for listening.
Goodbye now.